Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we had a little conversation earlier with Marcieli, and I can't wait to interview her. So, Marcieli Pastorio is a visionary entrepreneur, community builder, and founder and CEO of Maha Juice Bar, a thriving lifestyle brand redefining the juice bar industry with its authentic Brazilian acai. How do you pronounce it again?
Sorry.
Oh, and commitment to health and balance and quality. She was born in Brazil, grew up surrounded by the values of hard work, resilience, and faith. Her early experience working in her mother's businesses instilled in her a deep appreciation for service and community. These roots would later shape her approach to business, creating not just a brand, but a movement that fosters connection, well-being, and purpose. So, our pre-interview time, I'm so excited to really dig deep and get to know who you are. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, I'm very excited to be here. This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, we were having a fascinating
I
conversation,
know we should have recorded earlier, is what we should have
right?
done, right?
Yeah, during the pre-interview and your whole migration from Brazil to the US. Take us back again, because I think our listeners would love to hear about this.
Yes, so I was born and raised in the Amazon region of Brazil, right in the deeps of the jungle. So my upbringing was very in tune with nature. It was very outdoorsy. My parents come from a health industry. My father is a retired doctor, and my mom, she's a nurse who worked as an esthetician for all her life. So I saw and was taught that food is good for you. And so being raised in a family where we eat everything from nature, and appreciate that. I think it's what made me fall in love for this industry even more.
It's funny because I think about my childhood, and food was not considered anything but sustenance. It was not something to enjoy, and we never considered it nutrition. So I think this is a beautiful kind of foundation, especially now that you're in the health food business and the wellness business. So tell me about a day in the life of Marcieli, as a child, you woke up, you went to school, did you pick pears? What did you do on a day-to-day basis? Do we pick pears? I don't even, do they come from a tree, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so a typical day growing up, wake up, go to school, come back. It was always hot, and the Amazon is always the same temperature. It doesn't change. If you get a cold front, it's like just 2 degrees different, and everybody wears a jacket. It's 100% humidity at all times. So I would go to school, come back, have lunch, because in Brazil is a little different. Either you go to school in the morning at 7:30 to 12, or you go from 1:30 to 6. So it depended on what time of the day that you registered to go to school. Most of my life was in the morning. So I would come home, have lunch with my family. It's it's very traditional in Brazil. If you go to work, you come home for 2 hours. So you'll have lunch with the family, you'll take a siesta, and then you go back to work. So I would eat with my family, and then after that, either I would go play with my friends or go to the pool or always doing something. And I remember my dad always building some sort of construction. And we had a lot of piles of like sands and like rocks for the construction. And I would pretend and play that I had a kitchen. So I would take like the leaves and I would cut it and make little food, just being a kid, playing outdoor and just being very involved with nature.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
fun.
It's such a spectacular childhood, right? So rare. So few people can say they were raised in the Amazon like that. So, so tell us what happens next.
So my father has three kids with a previous marriage, and they were living in Lancaster, Massachusetts. So when I was about 10 years old, we decided to come visit them. And there I loved it and I stayed. I never went back. Like I went to fifth grade, I learned English. I stayed here for a year and then I went back home because I was too young. I missed my parents. I wanted to be home. When I was 14 years old, I became a teenager and my mom's like, I can't take you anymore. Go back to the United States where there are more rules. So I came back. I did my freshman year of high school here. And after another year, I went back to Brazil, finished my high school, started college. And when I was 21, I wanted to experience America as a 21-year-old because until then, I only knew it as a child. And I told my parents that I found a college in England that was 1 year shorter than the one I was doing in Brazil. And this is already my second college in Brazil that I had started and not finished. And my parents were like, you know what? No, you finished this one. I was like, no, then I'll go to America. I'll make money and I'll pay for my own college and I'll go live in England. I have never been to England. I'm here since. So, yeah. And I was 21 and I learned that the American dream is possible, but it's hard. I had five jobs. I worked like crazy, but I never left. I created a life here and it's where I stayed.
Wow.
I'm going to use a word, and it probably isn't a good descriptor, but there is a little rebelliousness,
Quite strong-minded.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
strong-willed, yeah, and
Yeah.
opinionated about things. I don't know if I could have stood up against my parents like you. Nope, I'm going to America, and someday I'm going to go to England or whatever. Would you consider yourself strong-willed, independent, maybe even just a little bit of a rebel?
Oh, yes. I can totally see. I was such a rebel on my teenage years that my mom was like, I can't take you. She shipped me back to the United States because I was going through those terrible teens and she's like, I don't know how to handle you. So, but those trips, that time that I spent here made me a better communicator because I learned English on a very early age. Um, and it just built me to have a history in here, in this country, prior to where I am now. You I
Yeah.
don't know if it makes a lot of sense, but it created a base for me
Yeah.
to know this country in different levels of my life to to be living what I am right now.
So I have about 50 different questions in my mind at once. However, I'm going to try to stay linear here. How did you move from working your five jobs to entrepreneurship?
Oh my. So I met my ex-husband and when we started dating, he started taking one job at a time out. So
Ah,
yeah. Yeah, he's like, it's too much. You're working like crazy. Let's take the bartending out.
Yeah.
that,
So
that went first.
yeah, well, of course. So and then we decided to get married. The circumstances were a little different. I was actually deported because I was building a life in the country with a tourist visa. So on one of my trips back home, that I would not overstay my stay, um, on my way back, the immigration was like, no, you're building a life here. No, you go back to your country then. So I was deported, and immediately I was in love. I went to the Canadian embassy, got a visa, and went to Canada. And there I lived for 3 months, where my ex-husband would visit me every weekend. So it was a 5-hour drive from Boston to Montreal. And that was, our relationship was there. And then we decided, why don't we just get married to speed up the process of forgiveness? Because I had to wait 10 years before I could ask for forgiveness to the country. So if I got married, I could ask for forgiveness within 5 years. On the day my parents arrived for our marriage, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Montreal was just a little bit of time, and I was like, I'm not going to stay here on a foreign country with no doctors, pregnant, and only seeing my husband every weekend. No, no, no. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to stay with my parents where I'm safe, and I know people that, I'll have a safe pregnancy. And that's what happened. So I stayed in Brazil for my whole pregnancy and waited. Uh, patiently until a miracle came. My daughter was born November 27th, 15 days after I received the letter of forgiveness. So I was able to come back home in 2005. She was 30 days old.
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful story. And also wonderful that your family embraced you during this kind of awkward time where is my home? Is it Canada? Is US? Is it Brazil? Where do I belong kind of place, and all the legal mumbo jumbo that you had to go through. And so to go back to the nest again, back to the forest, so to speak, where you were embraced. Okay, so this is amazing. I have a question regarding the cultural differences. What was your first impression of America and American people? And how has your culture blessed you so you can have the courage and the tenacity to grow a business?
I was very young when I came and had the first experience of America. I build relationships. I have friends still till today. We still communicate. And one of my friends when I was 10 was the person who took me in when I decided to come back when I was 21. So I lived with her for a couple of months. Um, but the cultural it all depends on how you want to create your own culture. It doesn't matter if I was raised in Brazil or in Europe. If I don't have a strong mindset of what I want, I will never be a successful entrepreneur. So it's not about the actual culture, it's about a mindset. And like you mentioned family, like my family till today, if I tell my parents, come live with me, they'll live with me. If I say I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna live with you, we're all gonna be home. That part of the Brazilian culture is beautiful because the parents will always take the kid in. You don't leave your parents' house until you're married. That's how it works down in Brazil. Here, you're 18. See you later. Out the door. Yep. And I tell my kids all the time, like, you're only going to leave my house once you get married. And if you want to live with me while you're married, it's okay too. And they laugh. They go, Mom, that's ridiculous. I'm like, you will understand when you start paying bills. And it's just how that culture is the difference right there. Is just that I think Brazilians are very family oriented, like they're always together. We're always together. And that, in a way, helped me see how we're always serving someone because we're always having people over the house. We're always having cookouts. We're always eating together. So that community of in the family showed me to serve.
Mhm.
I'll serve you your food. It's an act of serving. It's little, most people don't realize it, but it just shapes you.
It's not obvious. It's like the subculture. It's below the surface, but it's
Mhm.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm seeing the transition and migration from Canada to back to Brazil into mommyhood.
Yeah.
But I'm still pushing for that stepping into entrepreneurship component. Where and how does that come in?
It came in because of I got divorced and I needed to do something. I couldn't live out of $9 an hour from Dunkin' Donuts. And my parents decided to buy a store for me, a little Brazilian market. And that was the push that I had to become an entrepreneur. I had to become a boss. I had to do something if I wanted to survive. You,
Mm.
I couldn't make it on alimony. I couldn't make it at $9 an hour. So when my mom saw potential in this tiny little store, and we worked so hard and we grew so fast that the circumstances of my life made me become an entrepreneur. It wasn't a decision of, oh, I will become an entrepreneur. No, I had to. I had to step up. I had to push myself to the next level, to the next limit of how far can I go.
Wow. So you were an accidental entrepreneur in many ways. So you kind of learned as the day evolved and the week evolved and the year evolved. So at what point did you know you were wired to be an entrepreneur? Was that a gradual thing, or was there a moment you go, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this"?
No, it was gradual. I never stopped and thought about like, oh, I'm a good leader. Because over the years, I was not a good leader. I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know the whole purpose of being a leader until not too long ago. And I'll tell you examples because when I started the juice bar, I grew. I grew from 2 employees to 6 and then 8. And to manage that amount of people
Mhm.
was difficult. And I didn't have maturity to lead. I didn't know what a leader was supposed to actually do. So I had employees leave. I had whole team of people leave me all at once. I had no one. Yep. And I had to open the store by myself and because I was a bad leader. And then I started seeing that I needed to change. So I started doing my homework. I started going after uh, leadership podcasts and books and going after how can I change. And I stumbled upon John Maxwell, who is a mentor without knowing that he's my mentor. I read all his books. I
Yeah.
go to his seminars and everything. And I had one team member who left and then she came back. And one day I was having a meeting with her while she was having her break. I like to sit while they're eating and just talk. How's the family? How's it going? And she goes, Marcy, when I worked for you 2 years ago, I hated you. Now I see you as a different person. You have evolved, you have grown, and I love working for you. My team is the same team always. They don't leave. They like working inside Maha. They like the family feel. They like to see my progress because I'm always asking them, what can I do to to better serve you? What can I do to be a better leader? And they're frank with me, they'll tell me, I don't like when you do this. I'm like, okay, I'll work on it. But they know my way of being. I'm a very explosive person. And if something is bothering me, I will tell you straight on. I will not wait. I'll be like, this, blah, 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 and then it goes away. And then I'm at peace and we move on. And they learn that about me. And they know Marcy's going to be mean Marcy for 5 minutes, but then she's going to get it out of her system and we're all going to be good.
I
So
love
yeah, it took a while, but
That's so great. So, what are some of the values? Because you seem to have some really strong values. What are some of the values that you've infused in the business?
oh, there's a lot of them, but our core value is excellency. We do everything with excellency. We make our food how we would like to eat. We don't cut corners. We follow the system because the customer will always deserve to have an excellent meal. Um, we're always serving kindness. Kindness is the the main core because I have learned through the years that some people will come to my restaurant and they're having a bad day. And maybe my way of saying something might affect that. So the kindness that I give to my customer will change their day. And that is very important. And everybody knows, hey, you treat others like you would like to be treated. If you're having a bad day, leave it outside, but the customer needs to have your kindness right now. And I can tell you endless stories of customers who come in and later they text me and they say, as I was eating my bowl, I felt loved because that's what we do. We serve with love and responsibility. We're very responsible at what we do. We we do it in a level that the business is not even ours. We're just there to serve. We're just there as stewards of what was given to us. So those are our core values inside Maha that makes a difference.
Ooh, that was a mouthful to serve with love. Just imagine that for a second, this beautiful bowl of food that is healthy being served with love. I get this rush that says that's nutrients all by itself, right? To be so valued as a customer that someone cares enough for me, not just to provide beautiful, healthy food, but this feeling of you're part of something. We want you here. We love you. We appreciate you. I mean, especially in today's world where we go eat and we get service that like we're bothering people, right? Rather than, so it
Yeah.
just feels warm. It feels like you're part of something. So, one of the things in our intro that hit me and I wanted to kind of delve into it was how your roots shaped your approach to business and this business really becoming more of a movement that fosters that kind of connection, that well-being and the purpose. Can you address for us how maybe some best practices or things that you do that fosters that and teaches that to our employees where they're focusing on that connection and well-being and that there's a higher purpose here.
Yes, definitely. I believe that what you do is seen. So if you're seeing your leader talk to the customers, love the customers, engage with the customers, you're going to want to do that as well. Because it's just, I didn't really fully realize that until, I don't know, a couple years ago when I started seeing my customers as family members, I knew everything about them. They would come in and they would like to chat with me. They would take 30 minutes of their very busy day and just have a chat with me. And that makes a huge difference. Growing up in Brazil, I always saw my parents work a lot. Like my father would leave early in the morning. He would not come back until late at night. And my mom, the same way. I would see them for lunch, but they were always working. So the work ethic that I saw in them was embedded in me. So it's not, oh, I'm just going to go to work and that's it. No, it was rewarding for them to do what they were doing. So I always saw that in them. Um, the entrepreneurial world is very it's what you make of it. It's not really just let's just do what everybody's doing. You
Mhm.
have to reinvent yourself. And how I grew up eating the food that I ate and knowing what was good for you while we were eating the food, I didn't know then, but I do know now because if a customer comes and asks me, oh, what's this juice good for? I can tell you everything what's it good for. There's a lot of vitamin A, there's vitamin C, there's this. And I can teach the customer why is it good for them.
Mhm.
But I didn't even go to college for that, but I learned that at the kitchen table every day with my parents.
Wow, that's so
Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah.
so speaking about what you did go to college for, you went to pharmacy school, right?
Yes, I did a couple years of pharmacy, but when chemistry and physics really hit, I didn't like it one bit. So I transferred to do tourism and travel, and I loved it because I was young and I thought, oh, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to be a guide, let's do this. And while I was doing that college, I found another college that was 1 year earlier, like less
Yeah.
than the 4 years in Brazil. It was only 3 years, and it was in England. And I told my parents that I wanted to go to that college. But my parents were like, no, two colleges, none finished. We're not paying for it. So I decided to come to America and work to pay for my college to go to England, which I never did.
Marcy, what role does faith have in your life?
Oh, everything. I am I am a faith-driven person. I don't do anything without um, asking God. I pray about everything. I ask for everything that I need. And I will tell you that um, I live miracles daily. And sometimes I ask for something in the morning in my morning prayer. And at the end of the day, I'll give you like little examples. Very, people might not even think that that's a miracle, but to me it is. On the peak of the of dry season, I would say I needed to sell more, and I would ask God, like, God, today I need to sell $3,500. I need to sell $3,500 because I knew I have make what I need to keep up with the costs. And that's in the morning. At night, I would check the numbers, and of course, I hit 3502. And it's
Mhm.
just little miracles like that that you have to be aware of because God moves in very little ways that if we're not paying attention, we miss it. So it's faith is everything to me. I'm a very faithful person. I believe that the purpose that God intent for me is what I live every day. And that's what I ask God. May your will, your purpose for my life be done today and always. And I found my calling and I found that purpose and I live that purpose. And it's just like our conversation earlier, it's joyful. I have joy doing what I do. So faith is very important.
Wow. You've brought me this close to tears 3 times in this.
Let it out, Rebecca.
Great. You ask the next question because I'm moved.
You know what? That is so beautiful the way you just described your faith. And it made me think about this thing about the details, right? Like I think a lot of people say, "Dear God, please bless me." But what you said was, "Dear God, I need to make $3,500 today." Like you were very specific. How how do you think that impacts, like what somebody receives or the blessings? Do you think that you received it because you asked very specifically? Really is my question.
So I have learned over the years to be very specific with God, and I am very specific, and I will pray as if He's my judge and I am pleading my case, and I'll be very specific, and I will,
Wow.
yes, and I will remind God of the promises He left me in His book, in His law book, in the Bible. I will remind Him because He told us to remind Him of the promises He made. So I remind God, God, you promised me that I would dominate the world, the earth. I would rule over the animals. I would have access to all that you've created. So if He promised me that, then I want to live that every day. And that's it's it's a it's a level that you reach, and it's not on it in a day. It's a relationship that you have with God every day that you get to that point. Because in the beginning, I would be like, God, I need to make money, help me. No. Yeah. And if the Bible tells me to be specific with him, and he will hear our prayers, he will suffice our needs, then I want to live that. I want to be a living testimony of the beautiful blessings that he has for me. So
Becky and I are coming to your church. When is it opening? Are you going to start it off online?
Yeah, this
We
is
are
so
coming to that.
beautiful.
I'll,
This is very moving for me.
I've never seen Rebecca on a podcast, I don't think.
You probably never seen me cry, but in 10 years. um, the idea that in his word, he has made promises to us, and you were like saying, chop, chop, you promised, I'm expecting, I'm believing. This is an incredible thing. The other piece that was really incredible to me was you are acknowledging when it happens, right? So you're not you're expecting, but you're also acknowledging. At the end of the day, I made 3,500. So you're asking and you're appreciating, acknowledging, grateful. You know where your source is, and you expect that source to provide. There are no if, ands, and buts about it. That kind of faith is is just unbelievable to me. So I'm going to shut up because this is so moving to me.
I'll
You,
I'll I'll share a little bit of the story behind the franchise, how it all came to be. Um, when I thought about franchising, it was within 6 months that I opened the juice bar. I knew I wanted to be in all the communities. I had people driving an hour to come eat my acai bowls. And they're like, oh, we need one of these in my community and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know how to manage multiple locations. I was very new at it. So I said, I'll become a franchise and I can teach people to be successful and they will be part of their community. So that was 2018. 2021, I started the process with a business consultant because I didn't know there were companies that just literally make you a franchise. So I was doing it the way I thought it was right. And when we had to trademark the name, when I hit that part, I couldn't find a new name for the business. I just couldn't. And my lawyer was like, Marcy, you need to find a new name because the juice bar is a type of business. You can't trademark that. So I stalled and I didn't proceed. And then in 2023, I saw a video from Mark Seibert from iFranchise Group, and I watched that video. It was probably like 3 hour video because I watched it throughout the whole day. I had to stop and do what I had to do, and then I kept on watching. But he said something at the beginning, at that video at the beginning of 2023 that really pushed me. And he said the best time to invest in a franchise is during a recession. And if you guys remember, 2023 was scary. We were like, we didn't know if we were already in the recession, if we're walking into a recession. We were scared. And when he said that, I was like, okay, I need to get back. I need to become a franchise again. So I started the process with iFranchise Group. It was an amazing process. It was beautiful, but the name came back. I had to change the name. And it was months and months trying. I have notebooks full of names and nothing was available. Everything was taken. It didn't make sense. I wasn't feeling it. So on my desk, I have a big map of Massachusetts in front of me and a map of the United States. And being a person from Massachusetts, you kind of have an accent. So I was like, God, I need a name and I need a name today. This was Monday morning. And I looked up at the map and I saw Boston, and my name is Marcieli. And in Brazil, my nickname was Ma, M-A-H.
Oh,
Yes. So I texted my husband and I said, what do you think of MAH Juice Bar? Like Ma Juice Bar, like the Bostonians say, My Juice Bar. And
that's
I say, get it? And he goes, oh, I get it. I just think you should add an A at the end just to make it a little stronger. So there I was sounding out Maha, 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 Maha. In the meantime, my husband researched what it meant, and it means infinite beauty, infinite greatness in Arabic. So we came up with a word that already exists. It's actually a female name in Lebanon and in places like that. So Maha means something very big. And I loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is what we do. It's greatness, it's beauty, it's healthy. It just made sense. So my lawyer, I texted my lawyer, and immediately within 15 minutes, she goes, it's free. And I
nice.
said, take it. So the name was chosen, Maha Juice Bar. Um, and then, of course, I got scared again because becoming a franchise is very expensive. So I started having doubts again, and God used a lady that I never saw in my life. She came into the juice bar, and this is because you mentioned about church. She came in and said, I have a word of God for you. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, complete nutcase. I was like, this is not happening. But okay, if God can use a donkey to speak, he can use a crazy person. So I was open to it. I said, okay, well,
word.
what do you have to say to me? So she pointed to my logo and she said, God is going to use this as a church. And I started like laughing. I was like, thank you. And I didn't realize what she meant. I'm like, I don't want a church. Why would I want a church? I don't know. That's just this no, no, no. But my friend who was with me, and she's very knowledgeable, and she can see things between the lines that I miss most of the time. She goes, Marcy, maybe it's not a church, a brick and mortar church, but God is going to use you to speak hope to people in tough times. You're going to
Oh,
be in front of leaders that will need a word of encouragement. And then it kind of dawned on me, okay, leaders, franchisees, the teams that are going to come from each franchisee is the actual church. So I don't consider myself uh, like a spiritual leader or anything. I just do things based on my faith, and I share the little miracles every day. And
Yeah.
it's encouraging to others.
So Tracy, you had no idea that word meant so much, huh?
I had no clue.
That's
I
amazing.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm with the crazy lady. I think this business is going to be your mission field for sure, of spreading love, spreading hope, spreading the word. And we're gonna send you blessings, girl. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the Maha Juice Bar continues to grow. I know you're currently in Coral Springs, I believe, looking at a location.
Yes, I
Possible.
leave today. Yeah, so we're finalizing a lease to open a corporate location in Coral Springs. So
Nice.
this is a very exciting time. We're building our first prototype from ground. So all the other Mahas that I own in Massachusetts were transformed, was already a second generation restaurant. So we transformed it into Maha. Right now, we are going to build the first Maha Juice Bar from ground up with the way we envision it. So it's going to be beautiful. I'm excited. It's a new step, I would say.
Perfect.
Well, ladies, this has been one of the most beautiful conversations we've had, and we've had a lot of beautiful conversations on the
We
show.
have.
I actually have to jump off the podcast, but this has been an absolute pleasure. And you are just a very special, unique individual. And I just feel such a sense of peace. Like I want to reach through the camera and give you both a hug right now. Thank you so
Oh,
much for sharing so much with us today. I mean,
Thank you.
just, from business to spiritual, to your heart, your soul, everything. So thank you. And Rebecca, I love you.
I love you. Thank you for joining us today.
Um,
Marcy, we thank you for sharing your heart and your vision and your journey to becoming an entrepreneur. It definitely is your calling. You use the word calling, and when it's a calling, it becomes contagious. So it'll be very, very fun to watch as you grow this franchise business. And I wish you incredible success. And I really appreciate you sharing your heart today. So for those listening in, make sure to comment, make sure to like, make sure to share Marcy's interview. If it moves you like it has moved me, it will definitely move others. So we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.
Thank you so much.